This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. What I want to do today and what I want to do going forward is something that I found to be super helpful going into the 2023 season and while covering the 2023 season, which is putting down concrete, tangible expectations for some of the players and position groups and units on the Cleveland Browns. The reason I want to do this is so I have something to measure up to when I say this player disappointed or underwhelmed my expectations. So often expectations can become this nebulous thing that doesn't really have a tangible basis. So it's easy for somebody to exceed or underwhelm these expectations that you don't really have a great grasp on where they sat. Or if I say I got high expectations for this player, that might mean a different thing to everybody who watches this video. So what I find to be helpful is to put down some clear expectations for players that we're going to be talking about if they meet those expectations. The first player here is Deshaun Watson. And we're going to talk about Deshaun Watson on three levels. One, what's the bar for Deshaun Watson, right? What is a successful season for Deshaun Watson from a statistical standpoint? The second level we're going to talk about is what should the goal be for Deshaun Watson on some of these more individual stats. And three, what's the moon for Deshaun Watson? What's the highest you can get? If Deshaun Watson gets this, you are thrilled. I have nothing else to ask for. That man has reached all the expectations that could be given to him. We're going to go through all of that in this video, and we're going to start with the bar for Deshaun Watson. So what does the bar for Deshaun Watson look like for me? Put it on screen right now. This is my bar for Deshaun Watson in 2024. He needs to get over 4,200 total yards. That includes rushing and passing. I know a lot of people act like rushing yards don't exist for a quarterback. I believe they exist for a quarterback here. 4,200 total yards. Over 29 total touchdowns. He needs to have less than 13 total turnovers. So not just interceptions, right? A lot of times we forget to talk about the fumbles lost. Needs to have less than 13 total in that category. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough number to hit, but less than 13. That's the bar for him. Okay. And then you have these categories, right? The less than, greater than categories. If he gets three of those six, I will call this a success as long as he gets the other categories as well. A over 8 yards average depth of target. If he gets over 8 yards average depth of target, good. If he gets over 66% in completion percentage, good. If he gets over a 5.6% big time play percentage, which is a metric from Pro Football Focus that measures how many big time throws that you make in a football game and the percentage of them. 5.6. If he gets above that, cool. If he has less than 2.6 turnover worthy play percentage, so it measures, again, another Pro Football Focus measurement, one of their best metrics is turnover worthy plays. Turnover worthy plays measure how many times the quarterback puts the ball in reasonable enough danger to assume that a turnover was likely in that situation. Needs to be under 2.6%. Pressure to sack, need him to get to 19. He usually sits above 20, need him to get under 19. And then 45 sacks. If he gets under 45 sacks in the 17-game season, that will easily be his career high. But if he gets three of those greater than, less than things, that will be a success as long as he achieves the three main goals for him there. That's the bar. If Deshaun Watson has more than 4,200 total yards, if he has 29 total touchdowns or above and less than 13 turnovers, and any three that you choose from that category, that will be a successful season. That will be a season where I say, hey, Deshaun Watson lived up to expectations. He reached the bar. That is the bar. If you're asking me where the bar is for Deshaun Watson, that is it. Again, I'll put it back on screen. That's the bar. If you're ever asking me, if you ever get mad at me, argue with me about where the bar is for Deshaun Watson, that is the bar. That would mean, by the way, for those of you who are going to argue that the bar is too low, 4,200 yards would put him in the top 10 of all quarterbacks. 29 total touchdowns would put him at the top 10 of all quarterbacks. Having less than 13 total turnovers would put him in the top 10 least turnover prone quarterbacks in all of the NFL. Above 8 yards average depth of target will put him in the top 10 of NFL quarterbacks. A 66% completion percentage or above would put him at, say it with me now, the top 10 of all quarterbacks. Over 5.6% big time throw percentage will put him up the top 10 of quarterbacks. A 2.6 or under 2.6 turnover worthy play percentage would put him at, again, say it with me. Yes. Okay. You got it. And then 19% pressure to sack, that would not put him at top 10. That would just make him have a career high. The sacks are a big issue with Deshaun Watson. And then 45 sacks under that wouldn't be top 10. I believe that'd be like top 15. But again, it's a big thing with Deshaun Watson. His play style, he takes a ton of sacks. So that's the bar. Basically, top 10 quarterback, that's where I have the bar set for Deshaun Watson. If he gets to that bar, we're good. Quarterback play was fine. I'm not going to sit here and complain about the contract. I'm not going to sit here and talk about $46 million. We're not going to argue about Deshaun Watson all day. He lived up to expectation, or at least expectation for that year. The goal for Deshaun Watson is a little bit above the expectation, right? Like this is getting into territory of, all right, he didn't just meet the expectations. He's starting to get to the promise that we all felt when he got traded here to the Cleveland Browns. Now, what's that look like? I'll bring it up on screen. 4,080 passing yards. This number is made up from a 8.5 average depth of target on 32 passing attempts per game with a 68% completion percentage. You will have 28 touchdowns in this scenario and 8 interceptions in this scenario. That would mean a 101.04 passer rating, which would rank in the top 5 of the NFL quarterbacks in 2023. From a rushing standpoint, he would have 367 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 2 fumbled loss. So he would have 10 overall turnovers, over 4,400 total yards of offense, and over 32 touchdowns. Well, not over, just 32 total touchdowns, which would put him in the top, I think around top 7, definitely in the top 5 conversation. Like if he has a year like this, he's a top 5 quarterback, or at least in the conversation for a top 5 quarterback. This is what it would look like. If he does this, this would be, and by the way, the rushing numbers factor in him having a career low in rushing attempts. He usually averages 5.4, or at least he averaged 5.4 attempts in 2023. His career average is about 5.6 rushing attempts per game. I'm putting him down all the way to 4 rushing attempts per game, right? That's not going to go away from him. But if he plays a 17-game season, it'd be all the way down to 68. He usually in a full season sits at like 90 rushing attempts. So that would be a significant decrease in his rushing attempts. Make sure he stays healthier. And that's why it would be a lower rushing total than what he would normally have. He usually sits about 450 to 500 in a full season. This would be about 367 rushing yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 fumbled losses. Again, would be pretty great numbers if you can get it. That's where I have the goal. If Deshaun Watson gets that, we are talking about contract extension. We are talking about being excited about the quarterback play here, and not just talking about the fact that Deshaun Watson's contract doesn't matter as much anymore because he's living up to it. Now we're going to start saying stuff like if he puts up those kind of numbers, which again, top 5 quarterback type numbers when you look at the total averages here. When he puts up those kind of numbers, we would be talking about $46 million starting to look like a little bit of a bargain for him at the quarterback position. What does the moon look like for Deshaun Watson? What would my highest so if I say Deshaun Watson has exceeded my highest expectations at any point during this year, this is what it would look like. Let me put it on screen for you. This is my highest expectation for Deshaun Watson. 4,516 passing yards, 36 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. That would be an average depth of target of 8.8 on 35 attempts per game with a 70% completion percentage and a passer rating of 107.24, which would be the second highest of all quarterbacks in 2023. The rushing numbers going to be the exact same, not changing a thing there. This would be the best possible scenario. Like if Deshaun Watson puts up these kind of numbers, we're talking about an MVP candidate. We're talking about somebody putting up over 4,800 total yards. We're talking about one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Now, he did something similar like this to 2020. Question is, was that a fluke, or has he been out of football so long that that's no longer a possibility? Either way, this is my highest expectation for Deshaun Watson. If he wins the MVP, he would have to do better than that, which would mean he exceeded my highest expectations. Again, I'm not expecting that he do these numbers. I'm just saying, if you ask me before the season, which this is right now, what would be the highest possible outcome or the best possible outcome for Deshaun Watson in 2024, I would put this on screen and tell you, this is why I think is the max. I don't think he could do more than this. This is the max to me, right? If he does more than this, then good on him. He broke my expectations. Now, on the flip side, this is what he has to do for it to be a success. The bar is high for Deshaun Watson, right? This is not a low bar. 4,200 yards, 29 touchdowns, less than 13 total turnovers. Those are the non-negotiables. The bar is high. He has to get there. And even some of these negotiables, right? These aren't easy. It's not going to be easy to get 3 of these, right? We're talking about 2 career highs in the more attainable numbers, pressure to sack and 45 sacks. Those aren't the most crazy numbers for a quarterback to get underneath, but he's never been underneath, so that would mean an adjustment to his play style and a lean towards efficiency, right? Under 2.6 turnover worthy plays, big time throws, 66% completion percentage, a 8 ADOT. These are all going to be difficult things to achieve, especially at a high rate, right? If you get the ADOT, you want the completion percentage and you want the big time throw percentage. That's preferably how these things would get done. So that is why I have that as the bar for him. I think it's a high bar. I think the expectation for him should be to reach that level if he plays 17 games. And I think that's ultimately a fair expectation to have of a 3-time Pro Bowler who is getting paid top tier money to play quarterback and also under 30. I think he has a really good chance to live up to those expectations. I could see people being pessimistic on this and not thinking that he has a chance at all to do it, but I give him a pretty good chance to do it as long as he stays healthy throughout the 17-game season. I think this is something that he's more than capable of doing. So that is where my expectations are for Deshaun Watson. That's where the bar is. If he plays 17 games, I expect him to clear that bar. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.